Coming up here on the Raiders Report today, the Russell Wilson and Stefon Diggs news does impact the Las Vegas Raiders, and I'm going to be breaking down why it impacts the silver and black. Here's the bottom line. Anytime big-time NFL news happens, if you don't think that there is a trickle-down effect or a dominoes effect, or that every team is impacted by this some way or another, today's going to be a show where I absolutely prove that. So the news that broke late yesterday was Russell Wilson ended up signing a deal with the New York Giants, and it's funny, like literally at the time that I'm doing this video, Russell Wilson, it's like officially official, just ended up getting that deal done. So he goes to New York. But if you're a Raiders fan, you got to sit there and go, well, does that impact Las Vegas? It does impact the Raiders, and it impacts them in a multitude of ways. The first thing that made me think of is, will the Giants draft a quarterback? Because going into the draft, it would have been Jameis Winston, Tommy Cutlets, and they would have been looking for somebody. Now they got Russell Wilson, Jameis, and Tommy DeVito, right? Like, that tells me that they are unlikely to take a quarterback at number 3. If Cam Ward is the projected number 1 overall pick to the Tennessee Titans, and then if you're thinking that New York might end up going with a QB at 3, that makes me wonder, where exactly is somebody like Shedeur going to go? And if Shedeur slides, what does that do with all these other prospects? What does that do with all these other quarterbacks that might have gone high if Shedeur would have gone to the Giants at number 3? So the reason why, though, I actually think that this move helps the Las Vegas Raiders is because if you're the silver and black, and you want to go best player available, now the Giants are going to take somebody maybe like a Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. Maybe they want to go somebody else that's best player available. But if you were this brand new regime and you want to go with best player available, sometimes that's going to be a little bit more of a clear message, right? If it's Tedero McMillan, Ashton Genty, Armin Membu, Will Campbell, all these players, you're like, all right, I like that. It's kind of like when you go to a restaurant and there's a whole bunch of things that you want to order and you don't know what you want to order. When there's a less of a selection, like chocolate, strawberry, vanilla ice cream, you know exactly what you want and you're going to be a lot more confident about that. If Shedeur's there at 6, though, I also wonder if a team could trade up. We've been hearing a lot of rumors down here in Dallas that the Cowboys could be interested in going up to number 6 and getting Shedeur Sanders. I'm telling you, there are legit rumors around that, and I think this Russell Wilson news does help out the silver and black. If there is an elite prospect that is still there at number 6, I think that you could see another team try to trade up because now that pool that I was talking about is going to be one less player. The number one thing that I thought of when Russell Wilson ended up going to the New York Giants is this. I want the silver and black to trade back. I want more draft picks. I want more draft capital. If we're going to be as patient and, spend the way that we've been spending in free agency, if you tell me right now it's because the plan is that we're trying to trade back and accumulate some more of these picks to be able to restock our offense and defense in the draft, I love that strategy. So to me, and I want you to hit that like button if you agree with me, that the Russell Wilson move helps the Raiders trading back. And if you want the Raiders to trade back, smash that like button. Let's go to the next reason why I think that this Russ deal impacts Las Vegas. What's going to happen now with Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, if you don't think that the Raiders got an eye on Rodgers, and I know we already have our quarterback. I'm not saying Rodgers is joining Las Vegas, but there's going to be a lot of eyes on Rodgers. And I would have said he was probably picking between the New York Giants or the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Raiders, they play the Giants in 2025. Like, I really thought that Rodgers playing against the Raiders was going to be a possibility at Allegiant Stadium. Now I don't see that happening. But the other part of that is now Rodgers probably going to go to Pittsburgh, probably going to stay in the AFC. That's going to make that Steelers team a lot better. They're going to have a better chance to get a wild card spot because they might have had to roll with Mason Rudolph or God knows what they would have done. Maybe Jackson Dart at 21. But because Rodgers staying in the AFC, that's more competition for Las Vegas. And I talked to our Steelers source and I was like, all right, like how much money do you think that Pittsburgh's going to offer Rodgers? He said somewhere between $25 to $30 million a year. That is a price tag, though, that you need to think about because what if Rodgers gets more, right? Like, what if Rodgers gets $40 million? I'm going to be shitting bricks if Rodgers gets $40 million because that impacts Geno Smith. Because if you don't think Geno Smith's agent right now is looking at what is happening around every single quarterback this offseason, from, I'm not kidding you, Russell Wilson to Sam Darnold to Justin Fields, it doesn't matter. He's looking at every single one of those deals. And because the Raiders are working on a deal right now with Geno Smith, and because every quarterback deal has an impact when you get a brand new extension, That's important. Based on some of the things that I've heard recently, not that there's a holdup, but one of the things that Geno wants a little bit more of than I originally anticipated was the guaranteed money. I know Geno's doing the right things. He's out there working. Hell, he posted a video or picture today on his Instagram where he's got this like beautiful car. I think it's a Spider. I'm not a car guy. And inside that car, in the front seat, I mean, we're talking about a $100,000+ car. It's probably 200, 300,000. There's literally like 10 to 12 Raiders NFL footballs, dirtied grass just sitting there in the front seat. Geno's still doing the right things, but every time a quarterback deal ends up getting done, and the one that I'm really going to pay attention to is Brock Purdy. Because if Purdy gets a huge deal, I think that could up the Geno Smith price tag a little bit. If I was the Raiders, I would want to get the Geno Smith deal done before Rodgers signs, but I would also want to get it done because when you look at the Russell contract, it's a lot lower than a lot of people I think initially thought about. So what do you think happens first? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. And it's not exactly like the show I did a few months ago where I said it's really important for the Raiders to get an extension done with Max Crosby before Myles Garrett resets the market. Rodgers ain't resetting the market. But if Rodgers gets a huge deal, then that might raise the price a little bit for Geno, where I don't think it's going to raise the price as it stands right now. So what's going to happen first? Type G for Geno extension. Type A, Aaron Rodgers signs. I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to say that I believe Geno Smith gets an extension done first, but that's only because I'm not going to rely on Aaron Rodgers to do anything. Rodgers relies on Rodgers time, and I know the Raiders are trying to get a deal done with Geno Smith. It was reported, and again, anytime anything's reported by our beat reporters, you should almost do the exact opposite. It was reported 2 weeks ago the Raiders were close to getting a deal done, and I know that this is still ongoing. I wouldn't be overly concerned about it. Both of these sides are very well connected. Hell, it was reported the other day that the Seahawks felt like that they were doing right by trading Geno away to Las Vegas because they knew that both of those sides wanted to work together. Coming up next here on the show, how does the Stefon Diggs news impact the Raiders? Because I can almost make an argument that the Stefon Diggs news impacts the Raiders even more, especially because he ended up going to the New England Patriots. Before I break all that down, huge shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. You can get $50 when you play $5 over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Just make sure that you use code CLNS. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. If you're trying to run your game all season long, and that's what Prize Picks says, man. If you're trying to run your game, you got to go to the link that's going to be available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. And I don't know about y'all, I've been kind of itching not having any college basketball, not having anything to watch over the past few days. You know what I'm doing tomorrow? I am watching so much college basketball. It's going to be unbelievable. And if anybody's also planning on watching the Dukies, well, you might as well. You get 1 point and you end up getting a win. Because here's the thing, Cooper Flagg is going to score more than 1 point. And the only way he wouldn't if he got hurt. And if he got hurt, sure, yeah, that's true. Yeah, knock on wood. Chugs is screaming it in my ear. If he does get hurt, you end up getting your money back. So I'm telling y'all right now, you just got to pick one more, and you're going to put some money in your pocket, more or less. It's really that easy, and they do put their members first. You can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. If you're like, Mitch, I don't like college basketball. Well, guess what? They got Raiders season long. They got baseball, which I can't wait for opening day. If you're a sports fan and you don't have Prize Picks, I'll say I really question how much of a sports fan you actually are. Let's go to Stefon Diggs, and he ends up signing to the New England Patriots. It's a 3-year, $69 million deal, but it's essentially a 1-year prove-it deal because it's 1 year with $26 million fully guaranteed. So if I'm the Raiders and I look at that contract, I'm going, okay, that's going to impact us on what our plans could potentially do. And I say that because dominoes always fall. Right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. We can say a lot of different things, but dominoes fall when the top player on the market ends up going elsewhere. It's not Amari Cooper. The #1 free agent wide receiver on the market was Stefon Diggs. It's not a secret out there. But because he's the top free agent, now there's going to be people like Amari. Now there's going to be people like Keenan Allen, some of these other guys, and they're going to go, well, if that's what he got, that's kind of the number that I'm hoping to get. And the fact that he got a 3-year deal, reminder, 3 years, if the Raiders give out a 3-year deal, they view that person to be a part of this team for the long haul. But there's going to be other free agent wide receivers that are going to get more interest now. There's going to be more stories around those players. And the Diggs deal could be an outline for other potential free agent wide receivers, at least the veteran ones that I think that a lot of y'all are thinking about for the Raiders. Next thing is there is less competition. New England has the number one most amount of money in salary cap, and when you're going up against the Patriots, they have been a team that they have literally showed you this offseason. They are going to raise the price, and they are going to overpay. If you're going to get into a bidding war with New England, you're probably not going to win. And I'm okay with that because I don't want this Raiders team to go out there and overspend. I know Stefon Diggs is a good player, but if the Raiders would have given Stefon Diggs that contract, I would have sat up here and have been like, man, that's a lot of money given somebody coming off a torn ACL. For the Raiders, they have the second most money in salary cap space, and I know for a fact that there's going to be other teams looking at wide receivers. So what I decided to do is I went around our Chat Sports studios, and I went around and I asked people, what are your biggest needs were? And if wide receiver was not a top 2, top 3 need, you are not on this list. And there's going to be a lot of teams out there looking for receivers. But essentially, the Raiders have the most money according to Over the Cap if they wanted to go out and buy a wide receiver on the open market. And when you just look at a lot of the things that this organization has done, they've looked to add veterans and they've tried to add cheaper veterans. But if you're going to spend a little bit more money, you go out and you spend a little bit more money on the dude, or at least you go out and spend a little bit more money on a receiver that's going to help the guy that you just traded for and that you're working on a contract extension. If there's one place to not get cheap for the Raiders, offensive line, wide receiver, and honestly, dude, even running back maybe in the draft, but you got to build that offensive line. Let's go to the last reason here of why it impacts. The Raiders are looking for a wide receiver. And I know it was reported a few days ago by Vincent Bonsignor that the Raiders are in no rush to sign a receiver. That report did come out before the Stefon Diggs news happened. But, I'm like, that almost makes me wonder if there is a rush that the Raiders are actually trying to get a deal done. I'm joking when I say a lot of this, but it's been reported the Raiders are looking for a wide receiver 1. The Raiders are looking for a true X. When you look at a lot of even the combine meetings, it's receivers that are going to go high in the draft. Guys like Tetairoa McMillan, Emeka Ibuka, Jalen Noel. Like, there's a bunch of receivers that are going to go in the top 2 days of the draft. But because the Diggs deal got done, I think that this might speed up the process a little bit. So the next 3 names that you're going to see on this show are the top 3 veteran wide receivers that I believe the Raiders are going to be interested in. And the person that I would say is the most interest from Las Vegas, I'm going to go with Tyler Lockett. And that name's not surprising. Hell, I bet you a lot of the people that watch this show often are probably going to be able to predict the 3 names that are going to come up here on screen, but it's because of all the connections. It's because of the coaches. It's because of the skill set, what this team's been doing. You can go out and out of Tyler Lockett. And I know he's getting up there in age, but he can still stretch the field. He has a lot of chemistry with Geno Smith. He's a smart receiver, but I think the reason why he's number 1 for me over these next 2 guys is because of the plan at hand. And I believe the plan at hand for somebody like Tyler Lockett would be able to help groom somebody like a Trey Tucker. Spotrac has his value at about $7.7 million, and when you spend the amount of time that he did with Pete Carroll, that's why he's number 1 on this list. Let's go to number 2 here. It's going to be Keenan Allen. I like Keenan Allen a lot. Grew up a Raiders fan. Also has that connection with Raiders wide receiver coach Chris Beatty. And Allen had 3 years with the Chargers with Beatty from 2021 to 2023. Ends up getting traded to Chicago for a 4th-round pick. Guess what? Wide receiver coach Chris Beatty, he's hanging out over there. Spotrac has Allen's value at about $11.1 million, which is a little bit heftier of a price tag. But also when you look at what has been said about Allen, people get worried about the injuries. At the end of last season, Caleb Williams, his number 1 go-to guy, was Allen. And if you're somebody that likes trends, well, 100 catches, a little bit of a dip. 100 catches, a little bit of a dip. Is Keenan Allen about to have another 100-catch season? That's a little bit of a far-fetched thing. But if the Raiders are trying to spend a little bit of money, Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen could be the route they go. If the Raiders want to go cheap, which I get it, is kind of what they've been doing all off season, Robert Woods would be the name that I would throw out there. He had 20 catches last season for 203 yards, 6 foot, 195 pounds. Can you go to the player card for me on him? Because one of the things that I want to talk about with Woods is connections, and we see it time and time again. For Spotrac, they have him at $1.4 million, and he's played in at least 14 games the past 3 seasons, 30 starts. He's definitely fallen off a little bit, but Pete Carroll was a part of the USC regime that helped recruit Robert Woods to the Trojans. Also, the senior vice president of coaching operations, who's also right now for the Raiders, who was also at USC, who also followed Pete Carroll to the Seahawks for many years, is now with the Silver and Black, and he was with USC, a part of that regime in 2009 that helped recruit Woods, because Woods played at USC from 2010 to 2013. When you see a lot of the other moves again, and I get it, I'm not going to sit up here and give you super fired up about Woods because he's not a wide receiver one. Quite frankly, I don't even know if Tyler Lockett's a wide receiver one. It would be somebody that would be, Lockett would be a wide receiver 3, Woods would be a wide receiver 3, Keenan Allen would be a fringe wide receiver 2 next to Jacoby. And if you're Las Vegas and you don't want to have to spend a high draft capital on somebody like Tetairoa McMillan, you'd rather try to find a receiver maybe in round 2, round 3, then you could still try to add a veteran. And just the way that this team has gone, connections, veterans, cheap, kind of points a little bit more to Robert Woods. But this question is about what you want. Where imagine you get the notification. The Las Vegas Raiders sign Tyler Lockett. Las Vegas Raiders sign Keenan Allen. Las Vegas Raiders sign Robert Woods. Which one do you think are you going to be the most fired up for? That's the answer I want to see down in the comments. The answer that I'm going to say I think I'd be the most fired up for is probably Keenan Allen. But the one that I think makes the most sense is Tyler Lockett, where you're kind of meeting in the middle. Robert Woods is too cheap when we have the amount of money that we have, and he's just fallen off a little bit. Keenan Allen is up there, and if they're willing to spend money, I'll go spend money on Allen because he is a more complete receiver. But if you're looking for a field stretcher and somebody that also can put Trey Tucker underneath his wing, Tyler Lockett can be that guy, and it's also not a ridiculous price tag. I get that you're not going to give Lockett a 3-year. You're probably not going to give Keenan Allen a 3-year deal. But those guys have coaches' connections, and that's really important for this regime this season. Also, literally at the time that I'm recording this video right now, the Raiders have officially re-signed Matthew Butler. This was a move that we talked about a few weeks ago, and it's kind of in the same line of, officially Jordan Meredith, officially Sam Webb, some of these other deals that have gone down. But Matthew Butler has officially signed with the Raiders. Other random NFL Raiders news that just came across my board. The Raiders are going to have a top 30 visit with offensive tackle Charles Grant. He's from William & Mary, somebody that you could potentially look at in round 2 at 37. And then the Raiders are also going to have a private visit with Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden. So another receiver that's a little bit of a field stretcher on the Raiders' radar. Appreciate everyone tuning in to today's show. And reminder, tomorrow I'm going to be going live 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. I owe you all a boot. It's going to be wet and wild. Make sure you pull up.